walls of the cabin, throwing long shadows across Elias Boone's face. Outside, the September wind moved through the Montana Valley like a restless spirit, rattling shutters he had fixed more times than he could remember. At 37, Elias knew these sounds well: wood complaining, wind arguing, cattle lowing in the distance, leather creaking as he shifted in his chair. What he never learned to live with was the silence between them. 10 years. That was how long he had been alone on this ranch. 10 years since the winter of '74 took his father, his mother, and his younger brother Samuel. Fever came with the first heavy snow. By the time spring returned, Elias stood alone, burying everyone he loved behind the apple trees his mother once planted with hope in her hands. He pulled a blank sheet of paper closer and dipped his pen into the ink. Beside him lay the advertisement from the matrimonial agency. Practical words, sensible promises. It felt foolish and necessary at the same time. Elias was not a man who believed in romance. Out here, survival mattered more than soft words. But the thought of another winter alone, speaking only to his horse and passing ranch hands, had worn him down, he wrote plainly. His land, his cattle, what he could offer, security, respect, a home, no promises of love, just fairness, a working partnership. He did not mention his scars, or the night's guilt sat on his chest like a weight. Some truths were better discovered face to face. 2 months passed before the reply came. By then, Elias had nearly forgotten the letter, lost again in fence mending and cattle work. When the postmaster handed him the envelope, Elias waited until he was back at the ranch to open it. The handwriting was neat and steady. Her name was Clara Whitmore, 21. From Boston. Honest, untouched, not seeking romance, only safety and purpose. She could cook, sew, work hard. She asked only for shelter and protection. The directness of her words struck him. No false promises, just truth. He wrote back his acceptance and sent money for her passage and a winter coat. Boston cold was nothing compared to Montana. As September approached, Elias found himself preparing in ways that surprised him. He cleared out his mother's old room, fixed loose boards, repaired the stove. He even planted late flowers near the porch, though frost would take them soon. The night before her arrival, he sat by the fire with a glass of whiskey, wondering what kind of man invited a stranger into his life. At dawn, he hitched the wagon and drove toward town. The air carried that sharp edge that warned winter was coming. He wore his best clothes, clean and mended. His mother would have insisted. The stage was due at 10. As he waited at the depot, townsfolk gathered. Some smiled. Some watched with open curiosity. Mail-order brides always drew attention. The dust cloud appeared first. Then the stage rolled in, horses stamping and snorting. Elias felt his heart pound harder than it had in years. Then he saw her. Clara Whitmore stepped down carefully, holding a worn leather satchel tight to her chest. Her dress was simple and practical, her bonnet pinned back, brown hair touched with gold by the sun. But it was her eyes that stopped him. Deep blue, steady, afraid, but determined. Their gazes met, and something passed between them that made no sense at all. Elias stepped forward and removed his hat. He offered his hand to help her down. When her fingers touched his, she shifted her grip slightly. Her thumb pressed directly against a scar hidden in the crease of his palm. Elias froze. No one knew that scar. No one ever noticed it. Clara held his hand as if she had done it before, as if she already knew him. She pulled back quickly, color rising in her cheeks, but her eyes held something deeper, something that unsettled him. For the first time in 10 years, Elias Boone felt the ground shift beneath his feet. The wagon rolled away from town with a slow creak, the sound steady but tense. Elias kept his eyes forward, hands tight on the reins. Clara sat beside him, back straight, satchel resting in her lap like something fragile and precious. Neither spoke for the first mile. The wide Montana land opened around them, empty and endless, the kind of space that made most newcomers uneasy. "It's beautiful," Clara said softly at last. Elias glanced at her, surprised. Most people found the emptiness frightening. "Wait until winter," he said. "Beauty turns harsh fast out here." "I know," she replied, and the weight in her voice told him she meant more than weather. They stopped at the creek to water the horses. Clara climbed down without help and knelt by the water, cupping it in her hands with practiced ease. Elias watched her closely. She moved like someone who had done this before, not like a sheltered city girl. "You've traveled rough before," he said. She looked up at him, water dripping through her fingers. "We all learn when we have to." They rode on. When the ranch buildings came into view, Clara's breath caught. Her eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. She stepped down from the wagon and walked straight toward the porch. Without hesitation, she stepped over the third step. Elias stopped short. That step had been broken for years. Even repaired, he still stepped over it out of habit. "Clara," he said quietly, "how did you know?" Quote. She turned, startled, then forced a small smile. "Lucky guess." But Elias knew better. Inside the house, the unease deepened. Clara moved through the rooms as if returning, not arriving. Her fingers brushed the wall at a worn knot of wood. She avoided a creaking floorboard without looking down. She walked directly to the room that had once been his mother's. Later, as he built up the fire, she spoke from behind him. "The cups are in the cabinet by the window." He turned slowly. "How did you know that?" She hesitated. It made sense. Too much sense. At supper, Clara suggested roasted potatoes cooked in bacon grease. Elias felt his chest tighten. "My mother used to make them that way," he said. Tears slipped down Clara's cheeks. She did not deny it. That night, the truth came out in fragments. Clara admitted she had dreamed of the house long before she ever saw his letter. She dreamed of him, his scars, his loneliness, the apple trees behind the house. Elias felt the world tilt beneath him. He did not send her away. Days passed, then weeks. Clara worked hard. She rose before dawn, kept the house warm, mended clothes, learned ranch routines quickly. But the strange knowing never stopped. She paused as if listening to things no one else could hear. She found items without searching. She spoke memories that were not hers. 3 weeks after her arrival, Elias came in from the range and found Clara sitting at the table, pale and shaking. In front of her lay an envelope and an open letter. His letter. Not the one he remembered writing. The handwriting was his, unmistakable. The words cut deeper than any blade. Confessions of guilt. Of shame. Of the night his family died while he sat drinking in town. Of scars he never spoke of loneliness eating him hollow. "I don't remember writing this," he said, his voice low. "You were honest," Clara said gently. "That's why I came." Anger flared, then faded. The words were true, whether he remembered writing them or not. When he accused her of deception, she did not back down. She told him why she fled Boston. Powerful men. A dead father. Documents that proved corruption. Men who wanted to own what could not be owned. Silence fell between them like fresh snow. That night, the first snowfall came early. Clara stood at the window watching it fall. Elias joined her. "They'll come for me," she said, "soon." "Then they'll answer to me," he replied. The wind howled later that night. Elias woke instantly. Horses. Moving slow. Careful, not neighbors. A knock struck the door, hard and deliberate. "Send her out," a man's voice called. "And we leave." Clara stood beside Elias, her hand trembling but her chin raised. When the door opened, lantern light revealed 3 riders. The man in front smiled coldly. "Harlan Vexler," Clara said, "you found me." Elias stepped forward, rifle ready. "She's my wife." Laughter followed, sharp and cruel. Before violence could erupt, a warning shot cracked the night. A neighbor's voice carried from the dark. Others answered. Men who knew this land. Men who stood together. The riders backed away, threats hanging heavy in the air. As the silence returned, Elias realized something had changed. Clara was no longer just a stranger under his roof. She was under his protection, and he was under hers. Whatever was coming, it would not be faced alone. The land around the house felt watchful now, waiting, and Elias knew this was only the beginning. By morning, the ranch no longer felt quiet. Horses stood tied along the fence. Men gathered near the barn, rifles resting easy in their hands. Neighbors Elias had helped during hard seasons arrived without being asked. Out here, help was repaid without words. Clara moved among them with coffee and steady thanks. She did not hide or tremble. Whatever fear lived inside her, she carried it with strength. Elias watched her and understood something clear at last. She was not weak. She had never been. The men returned that night. They came fast, thinking darkness belonged to them. Shots cracked across the valley. Horses screamed, shouts echoed off the hills. But the land knew its people, and the people knew the land. Elias fought with calm purpose. Every fence post and rock was familiar. Every man beside him was trusted. When the smoke cleared, 2 attackers lay wounded. One was captured. The leader tried to flee. Clara saw him first. He raised his gun toward her, desperation in his eyes. Elias stepped between them without thought. The shot tore into his side, hot and burning. He fired back once. The man fell. Clara caught Elias as he dropped, pressing her hands to his wound, her voice fierce and steady. "Stay with me," she said. "You are not leaving." He didn't. By dawn, the law arrived. Real law this time. The documents Clara carried were handed over. Testimony followed. Names spoken out loud for the first time. Powerful men exposed by paper and truth. Weeks passed. Elias healed slowly. Clara stayed by his side through every painful step. No dreams troubled her now. No strange knowing followed her movements. It was as if the house had finished telling its story. On a clear morning, the small church filled with neighbors. Clara walked down the aisle with calm certainty, her hands steady in Elias's. No fear, no secrets left between them. When they spoke their vows, Elias felt something he had not felt since boyhood. Peace. Later, they stood beneath the apple trees, 2 still alive, 2 still bearing fruit. Clara pressed her hand into his, her thumb resting gently over the scar that once made him freeze. This time, he smiled. The ranch was no longer silent. Laughter lived in the walls. Warmth filled the rooms. The past rested, honored, but no longer heavy. Elias Boone had invited a stranger into his life. What he found was a home. And the